it's Max, and I am here to do my April wrap-up. So this month, I read 21 and a half books. I know, it's crazy. I can't believe I've done it either. I thought last month when I had read 16 was a lot, but that was nothing compared to this month, and I read a lot of good ones. So let's just get into it. So the first book I read was probably my favorite of the month, and it definitely skyrocketed to one of my top picks of the year, and that was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. If you don't know, this is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, and if you don't know what they're about, it is about six outcasts who are recruited to do an impossible heist. This was so amazing. I absolutely adore Leigh Bardugo. I loved her Grisha trilogy, and this duology is no different. It's actually even better. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I don't have it with me anymore because I am trying to clear out my shelves because I'm moving in 2 weeks. I'm going back home. But it is just kind of a guide to how you make friends and how you get people to like you. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next couple books I didn't really like and I was really disappointed with, and the first one was A Study of Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This is about the descendants of John Watson and Sherlock Holmes going to the same boarding school in, I think, Connecticut, and they have to solve a crime because they are being framed. It sounds like a really good plotline, a really good premise, but unfortunately, Brittany Cavallaro she made Charlotte, who's Sherlock's descendant, she made her just too much like Sherlock, and she is a 16-year-old girl, and it just really didn't work. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. The next book I read was The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This is kind of like Shadowhunters, but told in Victorian era, something like that, and it is about a girl who's all normal and everything, and then she finds out that she can kill demons, and she has to go in search of people who might have killed her parents. And it sounded like such a great premise, and the main character is Helen. The main character, Helen, is like really, really cool. She's really good. She's the reluctant hero, which I think is a nice change to the usual, like, okay, well, I'm the hero, let's go sort of character. But the writing was just so bad. I really, really didn't like the writing. So I ended up at first giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but as I was looking back today, I realized that it probably wasn't that harsh, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And then I ended up DNFing 3 books, the sequel to Study of Charlotte, The Last of August, just because I didn't really like the first one, but I had already bought the second one, and I tried it, I just couldn't get through it. Then I read this other book that I can't even remember the name of right now, but I went to Ithaca Comic Con, and I was there for the newspaper, and this author saw me and gave me a signed and personalized copy of his book, and I tried to read it. I got 10 pages into it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. It was so awful. The writing was just so bad, and I can't even explain it. It's really like something you have to read to understand what I'm talking about, because it was just so bad. And I felt the slump just coming on. I felt it coming on. And so I decided to pick up a middle grade novel, and that was The Five Kingdoms, The Rogue Knight by Brandon Mull. I had listened to the first one on audiobook, and even before I was done listening to the first one, I picked up the second one last summer, but then I just never got to it, but I did bring it to college, and I decided to pick this one up. This series is about a boy named Cole whose friends get kidnapped and taken to another world, and he follows them to try and get them back. He's captured by slavers and sold to the Sky Raiders, and then he ends up escaping with this girl named Mira and these 2 other guys, and they go on a whole bunch of adventures. This was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced. It was exactly what I needed, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And then I went to Barnes & Noble, and I got some good ones, including Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I have heard nothing but amazing things by V.E./Victoria Schwab. I hadn't read anything by her until now, and I just needed to pick this up because I've just heard absolutely phenomenal things. And while I did really enjoy it, I really loved it, it did not live up to the hype that everyone was giving it. This is about two boys named Victor and Eli who for their senior thesis, they they study extraordinary human beings, and they become extraordinaries themselves. And then while Victor is sent to prison, Eli becomes this vigilante where he continues to kill extraordinaries, and Victor gets out of prison and has to stop him. This is a really good ploy between good and evil, who's the hero, who's the villain. It is really good. I didn't think it was as absolutely phenomenal as everyone thought it was. I still gave it a 5 out of 5. And then the next book I read the next 3 books I read were the finishing of a series that I read the first one, and I got the second one, like, soon after I read the first one, but I just hadn't gotten to it yet. And so I decided to finally get to it. That was The Exiled Queen by Cinda Williams China. This series is about 2 people, the Princess Raisa and a street thug named Han, and their paths intertwine, and all this stuff is going on with the wizards in this land wanting to marry Raisa, but the clans, who are this other group of people, don't want her to marry a wizard. She doesn't want to marry the wizard either, and all of this stuff goes down. It's really, really good. This series definitely gets better as it progresses. The first one I probably would have given like a 3.75 out of 5 stars. This one I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. The Grey Wolf Throne, I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then finally, The Crimson Crown, which is the end of the series, I gave a 5 out of 5 stars too. This one is like almost 600 pages. It might actually be 600 pages. I finished it in a day. Yeah, I mean, I stayed up really, really late to do it, but I finished it in very fast, and I kind of can't believe it, but I did, so. After that, I picked up Everything by Nicola Yoon. It was another book that I got from Barnes & Noble. I don't have it right now because I am lending it out, but this, I went into it expecting it to be kind of like The Fault in Our Stars, and I don't really like The Fault in Our Stars, but I did pick it up because of all the hype. I did end up enjoying it more than The Fault in Our Stars. I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and it is about this girl who's allergic to literally everything, and she doesn't have any friends besides her mother and her caretaker, and then a boy her age moves next door, and they start talking through instant messaging, and stuff happens. I'm not going to go into it because that is a little bit of a spoiler, but the movie is coming out soon. That's why I picked it up, and I'm excited to watch it. Then the next book I read was Just One Day by Gail Forman. I borrowed this book, so I don't have it with me. This is about a girl who goes on a trip to Europe and ends up meeting this guy, and they go to Paris for a day. I liked the beginning. I liked the ending. The middle was awful. I really, really debated DNFing this because it's like she had this one day with this guy, and then she leaves, and she ends up being seriously depressed, and I'm just kind of like, girl, you knew him for one day. Like, get over it. And so that really drove me crazy. So I ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I picked up was by Brandon Sanderson, my very first Brandon Sanderson. I know everyone says the Mistborn trilogy is where you should start, but this one was like $4.99 on Amazon, so I just had to get it, and that was The Rhythmatist by Brandon Sanderson. This series is about a boy who goes to a school of, I think, like kind of like a boarding school, and there are normal people and then there are rhythmatists. Rhythmatists can take chalk drawings and bring them to life, and rhythmatist students are being killed, and so he begins to try and figure out what happened. This was really, really good. It did take a while to grab my interest. For the first probably 100 pages, it was pretty boring, but overall, this was really, really good, and I really did enjoy it, so I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, well, I actually finished an audiobook, and that was My True Love Gave to Me. I did get this, I did start listening to it in December, but because I'm not home, I'm not really listening to audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks a lot when I'm driving, and I don't have a car here, so I don't listen to them that much, but I did start to listen to it right before I went to sleep, and I did end up finishing it. This is an anthology written by many, many young adult authors about Christmas time, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, which was the Owl Crate book pick for the month of April. This is about a girl named Molly who has 26 or 27 unrequited love interests, and then her sister gets a girlfriend who has a best friend that Molly might be interested in. But then Molly starts working with this other guy at work, and she might actually. The next book I read was for the book that I'm writing, and that was The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is about the Salem witch trials. That's all I'm going to say because it does encompass a whole bunch of different characters. And I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. I've heard very mixed things about this, but I ended up really enjoying it. A lot of people didn't like the mystery aspect, but I thought it was a really great part of it. So I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And this was just a reread. I really love this book. I got this gorgeous Puff and Bloom edition. I think that's what it's called. And it's just so great. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up was Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. I was slightly disappointed in this book. I thought the main character was really, really annoying. She just like... She's a high school student, you know, and she was like, oh no, these people who are older than me and have college degrees know more than me. And it's like, well, yeah, of course they do. So I thought she was really, really agitating, and I just could not stand her. But I did really like the plot, and I like the rest of the characters. This is about a girl named Emmy who works for a set, like, she designs sets for movies, and she goes to the old house of an actor who just died, and she finds a letter addressed to his unknown daughter. And so she goes, turns out the daughter's dead, but then there's a granddaughter, and she goes and meets the granddaughter, and then she gets recruited to help in a independent film and be the set designer for that, and all this great stuff happens. It was a really fun plot. She's LGBT, which I thought was a really nice touch, but I did just find her really annoying overall. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was actually a novella, and that was Just One Night, which is just one day and just one year, and on quite a cliffhanger, because Just One Day follows the girl's point of view and Just One Year follows the guy's point of view. I did not read Just One Year just because I don't really like that sort of stuff where it's the same story just swapped. But Just One Night was really, really fun. I thought it was only like 50 pages, so it was a really fast read, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read, or actually finished, was Through the Zombie Glass by Gina Showalter. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but with zombies. It is Alice, turns out she is part of this race that can see zombies and fight them and kill them. And this was just really, really good. They're really fast reads. I had read 100 pages of this right after Thanksgiving break, and then I was in the middle of my slump, so I DNF'd it, knowing that I was going to come back to it, and I decided to come back to it, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read and actually DNF'd, but I do have a specific reason for that, and that was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I didn't finish reading this just because I'm not in the mood, but I know I'm going to go back to it because it is a really great book. The writing is really fantastic. It's just more of the September, October, fall, winter sort of book, so I'm going to come back to that later. And the second to last book I picked up was Everland by Wendy Spinelli. This is a Peter Pan retelling set in like a steampunk England that's been taken over by Germany. This girl, Gwen, her sister gets kidnapped because there is a disease going around that is killing like everyone. And Gwen is the only person who's actually immune. I wasn't a huge fan of this. I liked the story and the premise, but Gwen really annoyed me. A lot of the characters just really annoyed me, and I just wasn't a huge fan. I think I'm going to go back to Barnes & Noble and trade this in for a different book that I might like a bit more next weekend. So I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read in May was The Book Jumper by Mechthild Glasser. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. I probably did. Look at this gorgeous cover. I am obsessed with this cover. I think it's just amazing and beautiful. And this is about a girl whose mom and she go to Scotland to visit her mom's mother, and it turns out she can go into books and into the story. And there is some force that is going into different stories and stealing essential ideas and then disrupting the whole story. And so she goes and tries to figure out who did it. It started off okay. Like, I really this is like a theme. I really didn't like the main character. I thought she was really stubborn and pretty stuck up. And it's like she had been book jumping for, and she was just like, it's been 2 days since she learned how to do this book jumping, and she's just like, I can never imagine not doing it. This is amazing. This is my life. I'm never gonna leave. And it's just like, girl, you've been doing this for 2 days. Like, get over it. Like, you're ridiculous. So that was really annoying, but as the story progressed, she progressed, and it did get better. So I ended up giving them, right, everyone, that's my April wrap-up, and I plan on reading hopefully just as many books as in May as this month. So thanks for watching. Bye!